Trust Dettol to clean, protect, and keep you refreshed every day. I still can't believe how quickly you've grown. Dettol, tested effective against COVID-19.
From far with you. I even gifted you a magnificent house. Rosa, it's the thought that counts. Please help me.
When it comes to fever, you need to be both. Panadol Baby and Infant starts to work on fever in 15 minutes and is gentle on the tummy. Panadol Baby and Infant, tough on fever, gentle on your child.
Ukiambiwa 1 plus 2, 10 marks. Huwezi andika 3.
Hebu fanya ujinga, uvae jeans, t-shirt na kofia. Uingie kwa gari, makanga akuitishe fare, umwambie nitakupea tukishuka. Unasikianga? Dondoa moja dere.
GMC Place Kitengela, be your choice to bloom in love. With a few slots available, call us today on 0701 560 560.
All the days and the nights, reading for them and to them. You don't stop, and neither do we. Help build a strong foundation for your growing child with Nestle Nunkid. Nestle Nunkid 4. Our best for you.
To get Subira by Ibra featuring Skill Bill, dial star 812 star 799 hash. Skiza Na Nation.
This week on Lit 360.
$ means money and AP and power. So in total is the money and power.
Perfect. No more cons. I'm an icon, living, rolling like a boss.
No episode of Lit 360 is complete without the top 5 segment. And this week we are all about throwbacks. We're taking you back to the jams that you loved and you will never forget.
Brooklyn boys, and you're watching
Lit 360.
tunatoka Nairobi mzima East bus mpaka CBD ndombo gimevisha drill 254 tunachafua scene sindo the trend NTV.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Auntie Lina.
Thank you for making us.
Thank you for making us your favorite drive show crew.
Nation and friend, we love you.
Oh, thank you, people. This is the bad guys I'm stitching. I got you good. Ni wanyama mechizi yani.
Tunajibamba na show yenyu. Muendelee hivyo hivyo.
I came to rap, you know, do my thing.
Thank you for listening to 96.3 Nation FM.
Of course, Antona Obina.
And Obina.
Call him taking control.
Mad love, mad respect.
I run the city.
Next, on Daring Abroad, we take you to Dubai, the city of gold.
My name is Crispin Mangongo. In Dubai, I run a security company.
My name is George Ogango. I'm the CEO of First Global Events Company.
On Kenya to the World, why this Dreamliner has been repurposed into a cargo aircraft. This Saturday at 7:30 p.m. on NTV.
New Year comes with New Year deals. Renew your corporate subscription and get a bonus. Subscribe to Nation e-paper for 3 months and get 1 week absolutely free. 6 months and get 2 weeks absolutely free. 1 year and get 3 weeks absolutely free. To sign up, visit epaper.nationmedia.com or email subscription@ke.nationmedia.com. Offer valid till 28th February 2021.
They speak about Ebola. You may see people there saying that it is a business from outside these countries.
We'll tell you how misinformation is keeping Ebola patients away from clinics and driving the numbers of infection.
How did Nigeria go polio-free for 3 years? We went digging for the facts.
And former Ghanaian President Jerry Rawlings recounts his experience as a victim of fake news.
And we also tell you how social media posts saved a sick giraffe in a Kenyan game park.
Welcome to Insignia Service Center, a state-of-the-art service center that offers diagnostics, repairs, wheel balancing and alignment, and a fully fledged high-quality paint booth. Insignia Group, consistent excellence.
Credo Mix is all about anything created artistically by us, for us. Music reviews. Feel the fresh vibes, full of surprises as we get interactive with your favorite artists and celebrities exclusively. We will bring you all the latest hits, trending topics, and the weekly top 10 every weekday from 5 to 6.
And you're watching Credo Mix on NTV. Keep it locked.
At 10 p.m.
This is NTV.
A very good morning, East Africa, and from wherever else you're watching us from on this Wednesday, the 10th of February, 2021. Now, we've got a very engaging and insightful show lined up for you this morning as we take a look at the state of unemployment, especially among the youth, and how this crisis can be addressed. Now, to help me drive this discussion this morning is my colleague, Victor Kiprop. Victor?
That's right, Gladys. Unemployment, especially among the youth, has always been a major concern and some sort of a ticking time bomb in Kenya. But the devastating impact of the coronavirus pandemic has further worsened the situation, with thousands of businesses closing shop and millions of young people losing their jobs. We'll delve into this discussion and more in a bit, but for now, here is what else you can expect.
Tangu hapo hatujaona mshahara tena na maisha imekuwa ngumu.
The youth are crying. Rates of joblessness are high. What are their options?
Hakikisha hawa vijana hawatarudi nyumbani, wataendelea kupata kazi.
The Kazi Mtaani initiative is coming to an end. What do the youth feel about it? Further afield, DR Congo has announced that Ebola has made a resurgence barely a few months after Africa was declared Ebola-free.
It didn't turn out to be the case.
And Biden says the Trump administration's handling of the COVID-19 was worse than he imagined. Thank you for joining us on this broadcast. As we have mentioned today, we're taking a look at the crisis that is the youth unemployment in this country. It is a perennial issue. And this morning, we not only talk about the problem, but we also offer solutions, a lot of them that have come out of a silver lining that has been the COVID-19 pandemic. And even as we shed light on this, the question of the day to you is, have you struggled finding a job, and what have you had to do to stay afloat? Talk to us. That hashtag is a new normal, and of course you can reach us on the numbers at the bottom of your screen. That question to you again is, have you struggled finding a job, and what have you had to do to stay afloat? Again, that hashtag is new normal on our social media spaces, and of course you can also reach us using those numbers at the bottom of your screen. Now, before we get to that discussion, let's take a look at the impact of COVID-19 around the world. And this morning, that number stands at 107,402,798 confirmed cases of COVID-19 around the world. 79,456,045 have totally recovered from the same, and 2,350,921 have succumbed to COVID-19. In Kenya, the number stands at 102,048 confirmed cases this far. Out of that number, 84,542 have totally recovered. Again, home-based care being really praised for the success rate in the fight against COVID-19. And unfortunately, we seem to be seeing a surge in the number of deaths, standing at 1,789. And actually, yesterday, there were more than 30 people in ICU. So remember, do not let your guard down. Continue to wear your mask, social distance, and of course, wash your hands with soap and water on a regular. Now, I'll take a look at some of the stories making headlines this Wednesday morning. At least 24 people died after heavy rain flooded an illegal underground textile workshop in a private house in Morocco's port of Tangiers. Now, according to authorities, rescue workers recovered 24 bodies from the property and rescued 10 survivors. A search of the premises is still ongoing, and a news footage broadcast from the site on Moroccan television showed emergency services carrying bodies out on stretchers under the eyes of traumatized residents, with a stream of ambulances rushing to the residential district in the northern city. Workers were saved thanks to a local resident who helped them out of the flooded basement with a rope. Elsewhere, dozens of supporters of Senegalese opposition figure Ousmane Sonko clashed with police in the capital Dakar after a beautician accused the politician of rape. The 46-year-old head of opposition Pastef party has said that the accusation is an attempt at political liquidation, and Sonko finished third in 2019 election in the West African state. Sonko denied the rape charges in a series of Twitter posts on Sunday evening, explaining that he had visited the salon to receive massages to relieve back pain. Now, dozens of supporters gathered outside Sonko's residence in Dakar on Monday and hurled rocks and police officers. Now, officers in turn fired tear gas canisters to disperse them, and Sonko's current whereabouts are still unknown. The DR Congo on Sunday announced a resurgence of Ebola in its troubled east after a woman died of a disease just 3 months after authorities declared the end of the country's latest outbreak. The World Health Organization said it had dispatched a team of epidemiologists to the scene of the latest death to investigate. The health minister confirmed the case was in the Biena health zone of North Kivu province. The patient was a farmer, the wife of a survivor of Ebola, who showed showed typical signs of the disease on February the 1st, and she died on February the 3rd, after which a sample of her blood tested positive for Ebola. DR Congo on November the 18th declared that the epidemic, which tasted or lasted nearly 6 months in the northwestern province of Equateur, to be over. It was the country's 11th Ebola outbreak, claiming 55 lives out of 130 cases. South Africans react to their government's decision to suspend the rollout of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. The announcement came on February the 7th after studies showed that the jab proved less effective on the variant spreading through the country. Now, distribution of the first million inoculations was set to kick off in the coming week.
The vaccine is the wrong one. But you know what? They ordered it before they knew we were going to get variants. And we're going to get variants forever. So we have to wait for a new vaccine, and we just have to be responsible for ourselves.
We thought that the government was on the ball, but it seems like they had, dropped the ball once again with regards to those vaccines. So it's really disappointing.
I was hoping that the government will not control it centrally, but let any medical aid get it. And the government will only look after the people who don't have medical aid. And not to do it centrally and so slow. It's very slow compared to other countries.
It's not good. It's not good, yeah. It's a bad representation for the country, especially if they'll be spending tax money to buy the vaccine.
To marketers tourism now, tourists are still spending their holidays in the Tanzanian archipelago of Zanzibar, even as cases of COVID-19 appear to be on the rise. Tanzania has spent more than 6 months trying to convince the world that it has been cured of the coronavirus through prayer, while refusing to take measures to curb its spread. But dissent is mounting, along with deaths attributed to quote-unquote pneumonia, with even a politician in the semi-autonomous region of Zanzibar admitting that he has the virus.
When maybe other suckers are denying or would like just to keep mum about the whole thing, and then we have a high-profile figure, I think he has set an example of how things should be, and that it should not be seen as maybe a stigma. COVID-19 is a disease like any other disease. It's there in the world, and if we have it, we should tell the public and ask them to take necessary preventive measures so as to curb its spread in the islands and also in other places in the world as well. You find there are contradictions. On the one hand, the government wants to play down the whole thing, but on the other hand, the government, state television itself, is broadcasting advertisements that are telling people to take care.
Honestly, it feels nice to be without a mask. I'm not fearful, so live your life and come visit. Yeah.
I have not really been afraid because, I mean, come on. We have to live our lives. We have to continue living. Yeah, and Corona is going to be there, but we have to continue living.
And on to a story that is related to our discussion today on youth and unemployment. Hundreds of thousands of youth are trying their luck to earn a living through the Kazi Mtaani initiative initiated by the national government. A huge number of the many are trained teachers who have lost their jobs in the last few months after some private facilities buckled under the pressure of the coronavirus pandemic.
The old railway line that used to be an important feature in Bungoma town is revealed from underneath the overgrown grass. The young men and women clearing the area have just started their casual labor contracts under the Kazi Mtaani initiative. Many in this cohort are teachers who for the last few months have not been able to make ends meet.
Nimekuwa nafunza shule ya serikali lakini kwa board. Na tangu janga la corona litokee, Imekuwa ngumu kulipwa mshahara. Tulilipwa tu hadi mwezi wa 4. Na tangu hapo hatujaona mshahara tena na maisha imekuwa ngumu.
Tangu janga la corona lilipoanza, kwa hakika walimu wengi sasa shule za binafsi waliathirika sana kwa hili janga la corona. Imefika wakati lazima utafute hata jinsi namna unaweza jiendelesha kimaisha.
Education was paralyzed, and as a result, even teachers on board, payment has been a problem. Since March up to now, some of us have not received anything.
While some entrepreneurs are diversifying their business ideas to enable them keep their schools alive and also pay their teachers, some 114 private learning institutions are in the red and have declared that they may not be able to reopen after the virus has been contained, whenever that will be. For the many teachers whose income has been affected, they have no option but to seek alternative sources of income.
Na wakati nilipata ripoti kwamba kuna kazi mtaani na ni kazi kwa vijana, nikaona wacha nijaribu bahati yangu na nikaweza kupata kazi hii.
Kwa sababu kama hauna mapato, hauna vile unajiendelesha maisha, inabidi hauwezi kaa tu, lazima utafute kitu kingine chenye unaweza fanya, nini chenye unaweza fanya. Lakini tunatumainia Mungu ya kwamba hili janga la corona litaisha na maisha yataweza kurejelea kawaida.
When this disease is over, we shall be needed. Our services are very essential in the development of our child's education. So we appeal that they should not just be silent on us. Let them assist us, because we need each other.
Well, definitely the realities that we are living in, even as we face unemployment, massive unemployment, especially amongst the youth. So we delve further into the reasons why and what solutions there are out there. And as I mentioned, there seems to be a lot of silver linings that have come out of this pandemic that can also help us think outside the box in as far as work and careers are concerned. And to help us with this conversation in studio with me, I have Felix Musau, who is the founder of Agin. He'll tell us more about what it is he does. Also joining us in the other studio is Nixon Omondi, who is the team lead digital economy at the Kenya Revenue Authority. Thank you for your time. Joining us virtually is Isaiah Wachichi, who is a Bungoma youth and an ex-Kazim Tani rep. And we shall be joined by others even as we go along with this conversation. But for now, let's take a look at some of the statistics that are being put out into the public by the Kenya Bureau of Statistics, if we can have that. In as far as unemployment and the youth, jobs lost between April and June of 2020 actually stood at 1.72 million. 63% of them affected the youth who are aged between 20 to 29 years. Now remember, the definition of a youth according to the Constitution is up until 35. Now out of that, we have the unemployment rate standing at July to September 2020 at 7.2%. July to September of the same period in 2019, 5.3%. So clearly there was a spike, and the persons affected again between 20 and 24 years most affected with this. Now, another aspect of unemployment, the employment to population ratio, which gets quite interesting here. If you see, between July and September of 2020, it stood at 63.9%. However, the same period in 2019, it was at 66.1%, meaning there was actually the unemployment ratio was lower in 2020. We'll be addressing that in a moment. Then, this is the other thing. Due to unemployment during that period, actually companies registered July to September of 2020 stood at 9,649, an average of 326 new companies registered every day. Now, we'll get to the digital tax in a moment, but for now, let's take a look at the numbers that we just put out there. Felix, I saw you go, wow. Why?
Well, you know, when you were given the numbers, it becomes stuck to realize how dire the situation is. But it came as no surprise, because what I see is COVID just came to highlight problems that have been there way before. And when we think about, and I think as a population, we need to reframe what we should expect from our youth. We need to define who's youth. That's my younger brother, that's my younger sister, that's my nephew, that's my niece. And we have the responsibility to transform their futures. So when we come and ask the reality, how do we change this, and what are the numbers? I don't see these numbers getting any better anytime soon. That's a reality, because a lot of organizations have automated. A lot of organizations are working from home. A lot of organizations are working with lean staff. So what are we supposed to do with this population that has come out of the workplace? What are we supposed to, and from where we sit as Agnes, I mean, we look at this and we ask ourselves, how can we be able to restructure and reprogram our youth to stop saying, I mean, we grew up being programmed. I don't know if you, when you're going to school, there was this song that used to play, So Many Vijana. You remember that song? Unconsciously, we were programmed. And we expect the same solutions for this generation. This generation is not going to be a generation of being employed. This is a generation that's going to have to get into business. This is a generation that we have to create for them space in the economy for them to be able to earn. So from where we stand, I look at those numbers and I'm like, we have to do something and do it pretty fast.
All right, let's hear from the taxman briefly. Nixon, a lot of unemployment in that year we saw, but a lot of businesses also that opened up. How did the numbers look like in that side of town in as far as the digital economy is concerned?
Thank you, Gladys. The pandemic has brought in a lot of challenges in the economy, but at the same time, we know that the economy is being digitalized, and of course, to expand the tax base and to bring in those who are not yet within the tax bracket, that is why you see the digital service tax being introduced. Of course, it was not introduced, directly in 2020 during the pandemic, but the journey started earlier than that. That's why we see in the law, it came in 2019, the attempt to tax the digital economy. So even as we see the numbers dwindling or the not very encouraging in terms of employment, but again, we know the economy is becoming more digitalized. Most businesses are going online and digital, and therefore, as they say, the taxman then follows the money, which is also to bring in the digital economy into the taxation bracket.
Speaking of which, if we can have those statistics on the screen in as far as the digital economy is concerned, so that we can contextualize. Everyone has been up in arms, especially those that have used the digital space in as far as the digital service tax is concerned. And this is payable on income derived or accrued in Kenya from services offered through a digital marketplace. 1.5% of the gross transaction value. Now, some other African countries that have actually implemented this digital tax are countries like Nigeria at 30% rate, Zimbabwe at 5%, and Tunisia at 3%. Now, Nixon, at a time where we've seen the numbers, the youth are really struggling, they finally found an avenue where they thought they can make or eke a living without really not putting much into the capital or even sustaining the business. Then you came and decided, let's take something from you. Is this really timely?
Yes, Gladys. The conversation is the in-tax conversation globally. So it's not unique to Kenya alone. And you can see the numbers in Africa is in terms of the rates. And because the government is aware of the challenges we are undergoing with the pandemic, that's why we see our rate being one of the most favorable in the world. And the pandemic actually increased the issue of digitalization. And if we stuck with the traditional brick and mortar industries to be taxed, then of course the government will not achieve the revenue much needed to finance public services and goods. And I think we all appreciate, you see how high in Africa some of the rates are, and the conversation is still ongoing. If you look at our neighbors, Tanzania, Uganda, they've actually started the conversation. We don't know how much they'll put up as their rate, and it's only fair that we also move as the other countries in the world are moving. So 1.5% to me is a very favorable rate, because the government is aware of the issues around the pandemic and the economy, just as Felix had already alluded to.
Okay, now Felix, definitely there is a huge part of your business that is digitally oriented. Was this timely?
I think it's a reality that we have to live with. Is we are between a government that needs to generate revenue. We have a lot of youth getting into the digital economy because of the barriers to entry are lower, which I believe is a gift for our generation. It's one of the gifts that we have to be able to take advantage of and leverage fully. And there's still a lot of learning, I think, also from the taxman, because there are many different models internally. They have given a base, but there's so many different models that I know the taxman would still have a lot of learning to go through. So is it timely? It was bound to come. It was bound to come, and that's a sad reality. As the taxman has said, he follows the money. So where money is being generated, he will be there.
Okay, now I'll cross this over to my colleague Kiprop, because I'm sure he has a lot to interrogate in as far as those numbers are concerned. Victor?
Good, and from Felix's just last point about that this tax, given the growth of our digital economy, this tax was definitely bound to come. But again, I'm going to take this back to Nixon, because we're just a year, I think almost a year now into the pandemic. If we had the people we were expecting here from KEPSA, they would tell you that it's now that the businesses are trying to come back on their feet after, of course, a very lengthy period of suffering. I'm going to throw back the question to Nixon again. We of course need to generate more revenue to the government in order to fund the economy and our budget. But at the same time, aren't we killing the businesses that are already reeling and staggering and are trying to come back on their feet?
Thank you, Kiprop. If you look at the digital service tax keenly, there are a bit of exemptions. And again, as the name suggests, it's not applicable on goods. And those exemptions are to balance between the growth in the economy, to raise revenue to the government, and also to cushion Kenyans from the effects of the pandemic. So you see the rate 1.5, that is just one of the issues around it. You also see exemptions, goods not being part of it, and it's purely those who are providing digital services or digital intermediation between buyers and sellers. And that basically is the balance that the government has struck to ensure that we are able to collect, and also to ensure that Kenyans are also able to survive through the tough times which has been caused by the pandemic.
Good, but again, we're still talking about a sector that many might refer to as a budding digital sector, where most businesses are now trying to understand why perhaps you need to have a digital presence and a digital platform for your business. Then how do we find a balance of, again, trying to help the government make money without necessarily discouraging businesses from moving with the digital wave?
Thank you, Kiprop. If you look at the digital service tax keenly, for the residents, those who are operating here locally and present here, it is basically an advanced tax. And that is why what makes the digital service tax not to be an additional tax. It's only that you now pay it upfront. And one of the reasons why digital service tax was introduced, especially to the residents, one is to enhance the compliance in that sector, because we know of a number of persons who are now operating and earning money through digital operations. And of course, the second one, we also know the big techs who have been digital for quite a number of years. Some of them have been in operation for well over 20 years. So to me, it doesn't appear as a budding sector per se, because the non-residents will be taxed and they are not able to claim back the digital service tax. But for the residents, as I've already mentioned, they'll pay the 1.5%. Then when they file their annual return, which is under the usual regime of taxation, if it's an entity like operating like a company, they'll pay the 30%. But when they file their return, they claim back the 1.5%, which they have paid in advance. So that is one of the effects or the issues around the DST to ensure that the upcoming digital service providers in our country are given the space to operate and to expand and grow.
Nixon, I'm going to come back to you to this in a bit, but I think we also have Isaiah, who is a young man who's trying to find a job with us in this discussion. Isaiah, if you can hear me, as a person who has been struggling to find a job, perhaps you've tried to start a business here and there, you're trying to work with the little income that you have. How does it feel for you to wake up every morning and you hear again, we have a new, let's say, minimum tax, we have a new digital tax, even as chances of bumping or chancing on new streams of income depreciate? I think we might not have Isaiah with us for now, but I'm going to come back to you, Nixon. Again, there's still the question about the ambiguity about this entire thing. For different people, digital services tax means different things, and in different countries it means different things. And there are those who wonder, what is it going to touch? What is it going to? What is exempted? Maybe you could take this chance to just tell us sectors or products or services that will be directly impacted by this tax.
Okay, Prop, once again, digital service tax, as already alluded to, is a tax on digital services. So goods are not included in the tax. So if you buy or sell, let me say if you sell your products, tangible goods, through a digital platform, you are not liable to digital service tax. So we are looking at services that intermediate between buyers and sellers. For example, the providers of online platforms where you can, pick up a product and sell or buy. Then if that person who provides that platform earns revenue, either through the customer who buys or through the vendor who sell his or her products through the platform, then they are liable to digital service tax. We're also looking at services such as streaming services, whether it's music, it's video, and any other digital content. The issue about softwares, we have web hosting, cloud sharing, cloud computing services, and services such as automated help desks. We also have services where a person collects data on Kenyan consumers or customers and monetizes that data. Then the person will be liable to digital service tax. So basically we are looking at digital services. And then a number of them are also exempted. One of the exempt services under the digital service tax provision or provisions is services that are already liable to withholding tax. If you look at our law, withholding tax is applicable to agency, managerial, technical, consultancy, software, and advertising, including online advertising. So if the income is already subjected to withholding tax by the customer you have provided to the service, then you will not be liable to a further DST. We also have services that necessitate borrowing, lending, trading in commodities, trading in shares and bonds, which are provided by companies or entities listed in the 4th schedule to the Income Tax Act. The 4th schedule lists about 6 entities that are exempted, such as banks, insurance companies, mortgage schemes. We have building societies and such like. And then we also have services that are also provided, whether for borrowing or lending, by entities licensed or registered by the Central Bank of Kenya. So if you are providing, for example, loan facilities through an online means, if that online platform is provided by an entity registered or licensed by the CBK, then you will not be liable to the DST. And then, of course, another one is income that is exempt by law. So if that income is exempt by law, for example, those who are, such as NGOs, okay, and they have an exemption certificate, they'll not be liable to a further DST. Then the last one is the online services provided by government for provision of public services.
Felix, let me bring you back into the discussion on this. You've had the explanation by Nixon about how they're trying to find a balance between, getting some money for the government without necessarily discouraging businesses. As someone who is engaged, or his business is, has an element of online business, from Nixon's explanation, do you think the government has found that very, very, very tricky balance?
It takes a while to find a balance, and I'm sure there'll be iterations in the coming months. And there's also a lot of education that's needed to the people in the space to be able to understand when are you liable, what you need to pay. If you're earning different sources of revenue within the digital space, what is liable and what is not. So I would look at one saying the rate of 1.5 is pretty fair if it's a percentage of the turnover of the income that you're generating. And from what his explanation is, it's for mediation services. So if you're mediating in a marketplace and let's say you're making 3%, what he's saying, out of that 3%, the 3% represents your 100%, and out of that 3%, 1.5% is what goes to the taxman. Then it becomes clear. I don't believe it's punitive.
But again, I mentioned earlier that we are still coming from a point of pandemic, and if you noticed in January, the government has done quite a lot to do with regards with taxes. There was a revision in terms of the tax bands charged on the pay as you earn. There was the introduction of the minimum tax, I think 1%, which is going to see even loss-making businesses pay taxes. And now we have the digital tax. Do you still hold your opinion that the government is not necessarily overdoing it at such a critical time?
I think we're focusing on the wrong thing. I think we more or less we should be refocusing on how do we grow the businesses. 1.5%. What business models do we need to adopt to be able to overcome this? It's a reality that needs to be that needs to sink in earlier. So if you're turning over 100 shillings and you're saying 1.5% is going to go towards this, there are savings that you have made. I believe the savings of of digitizing would be maybe 20-30% savings, and then what they're asking is 1.5%. So I still hold at the fact that our focus should be on the growth of the business. What business models can we be able to adopt? How can we be able to focus and bring more people into this, into the digital space?
Nixon, let me come back to you on this bit about the point that Felix mentioned about educating the people. We had this discussion about influencers being, of course, among the people who will be affected in this. And there was also the question about some of these influencers get paid in kind. And then in the definition that Gladys gave us, this is a tax levied on a service provided for anyone in Kenya. Does the taxman have the necessary tools to tell from these transactions?
Thank you, Kiprop, once again. Most of the taxes we apply in Kenya, applicable in Kenya, are on a self-assessment basis. And of course, that resonates together with our own motto in KRA, that we do trust and then facilitate a taxpayer to comply. So if you don't then comply through the self-assessment, then there are recovery and enforcement mechanisms available to the taxman to utilize to ensure that the taxes are paid, and of course that is within the law. So I can assure you, the Commissioner and the KRA at large has robust mechanisms to ensure that every one of us pay their fair share of tax as per the constitutional requirements. Again, if you look at the influencers, I'm happy that we've done a number of sensitizations to influencers through various channels, one-on-one and online means, and even this kind of engagement we're having this morning, just to tell each one of us who is supplying or offering a digital service to start to comply, because the due date actually for January provision of digital services will be by 20th of this month. So that's a few days to come. That said, our doors are also open. We have channels where our taxpayers can always inquire, they can be guided, and then they are able to comply, because we believe an informed taxpayer is a generally compliant taxpayer. But Kiprop, I can assure you, we have enough enforcement mechanisms in place.
And maybe before I let you go on this point, it's been a month of trying to implement this, even despite the complexities of tracking and using the tools that you've just mentioned. Do you have an update of perhaps how far you are in trying to implement this?
We've done quite a lot, and we are happy that for the first time in history, we have non-residents getting to register and obtain PINs in Kenya. And it's a great milestone to Kenya and the Revenue Authority. So yes, people have registered, but for the residents, those who are locally based here, will be able to know who is in the net or who is not after filing, because we've implemented a simplified mechanism for people simply to pay without necessarily filing a return, whether you have provided or not. You'll only be able to pay the DST if you have provided a service in the previous month by the 20th of the relevant month.
Good. Of course, this is shaping up to be quite an interesting discussion. We invite you to keep engaging us on social media and on our lines. Keep tweeting us at NTV Kenya, at Gladys_Gachanja, and at Victor Kiprop _ Your World. I think Gladys may be having something to say.
Yes, definitely. And we go back to the fact that we have a perennial issue when it comes to unemployment. Fine, we've defined what the digital space looks like and what the taxes look like and the implications of the same. Let's go back to something as simple as Kazi Mtaani. It was something that was put across by the government to cushion the youth during the pandemic. But this is coming to an end in March. And this was actually after an extension from the government in January. Felix, when we talk about helping the youth move from zero to being bankable, to stand on their own 2 feet. Such initiatives, shouldn't they be like a long-term idea other than taking in and then taking out?
Yes, thank you, Gladys. The Kazi kwa Vijana initiative could not be sustainable. And I'll go back to what I said earlier, that we need to look at more different economic models that are more inclusive. Mm-hmm. When you look at Kazi kwa Vijana, I think it will be paid 500, but am I right? You go
Kazi Mtaani, yes.
Because Kazi Mtaani, sorry. You go, you pay, you get 500 shillings. Where is that 500 shillings coming from? And how many streets do you need to keep on cleaning, and how many jobs do you need to clean for you to earn that 500? Mm-hmm. And two, we need to ask, was that 500 enough? Now, each individual youth has a dream. Each individual youth has an ambition, and we ask, how can we create sustainable models that can be able to move that youth from 500? We talked about, you talk about bankability. Mm-hmm. With that 500, Bob, what kind of facility can I be able to access from a financial institution as a youth? I'll probably be relegated to the mobile, very expensive facilities, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So how, as much as it was, I saw it was as much as it was like a Band-Aid. It was a Band-Aid to help during that particular time. But what do we do after? And that's the question we need to look at, is they've become used to that 500 shillings, they've become used to that 500 shillings a day. It works, it makes a difference. I cannot understate that. But how do we build models that they can sustain themselves in future? That's what I think our time and focus should go towards.
And we'll delve deeper into that. Now, to just underscore that point, a section of the youth in Isiolo County are actually appealing to the president to extend the Kazi Mtaani program by 6 months to ensure the program's positive impact becomes sustainable. Now, led by their County Secretary General Nur Juma Osman, they noted that many youth have reformed from drugs and substance abuse and involvement in crime through the program. The 6-month program, set to come to a halt at the end of January 2021, has seen at least 3,490, and remember, this has been extended to March now, and the youth benefit from the program, and 116 more hired as supervisors in Isiolo County. The beneficiaries have been receiving at least 450 per day funds channeled to them after every 2 weeks through mobile money transfer.
Tuna demand His Excellency the Governor Mohamed Abdi Kuti pamoja na County Government Department ya Youth wafanye mikakati, wafanye mipango, tutawaletea proposal, wa take over Kazi Mtaani pahali imefikia. Kama national government haitaongeza, tunaomba governor achukue program, ahakikishe hawa vijana hawatarudi nyumbani, wataendelea kupata kazi.
Just listening to what you had to say, Felix, and listening to what the youth are saying, and earlier we had said there are ex-teachers who went into the Kazi Mtaani initiative just to try and eke a living. Doesn't it also point to another perennial issue in this country, underemployment?
Precisely, and underemployment is where you're paid, I think you're paid enough to get you, I think, to the mid of the month, but you're still expected to keep on going for the next 15 days. So you find that you're in this, I think it's called the rat race, where perennially you're just working, you're very busy, a lot of activity, but no progress. So you just keep on doing because that's all you can. So how are we able to move the youth? And just looking at what they were saying, I mean, it's a pretty sad situation. It's a very sad situation in the sense that you have gotten used to a handout, almost a handout. Now, it was only there for a duration. Now you become entitled, and that's what we are seeing. Now, if you look at the youth, what I believe in Africa is, and in Kenya as well, the youth is a gift. Every country, every nation, every continent has competitive advantages. One of our competitive advantages is we have youth who are learned. We have youth who are brilliant, who are innovative, and who are technology savvy. So we have ingredients that potentially can be able to make this youth become what we call an economic movement of sort. So what we need is that knowledge and the ability to keep on trying models that can be able to say, we have this energy. How can we have this youth? We have technology. How can we be able to take these ingredients that we have to create a model that is more involving, that is more inclusive? And that's the mindset that I think we need to adopt. Rather than seeing the youth as a burden, let's see them as a gift and ask, can we who are programmed to go and work, stop telling them, go get a job. We were programmed to get a job. We were programmed that if you get good grades, you'll get a good job. We know that's not the case. We can be jobless. You can have a PhD and be jobless. So the reality is not a good education. The reality is, what gift do you have? What abilities do you have? And how can we who have gone slightly ahead of them be able to create models that will be able to extract that gift and direct it and coach it and direct it to a point that gives them a sustainable future and a sustainable livelihood. So that's the thinking I think we need to adopt.
Excellent. And we'll talk more about how each stakeholder, national government, and of course the county governments can ensure that we give such opportunities to our youth. Now, Isaiah Wachichi joins us on phone. He was having technical difficulties with his virtual link kutoka Bungoma. Isaiah, it's good to have you on this conversation. Now, bado unapata mapato ya Kazi Mtaani ama uliachana na hiyo kazi? Isaiah? Isaiah, unanisikia? Okay, we seem to be having a problem with that. Let me go to Nixon. Nixon, there are a lot of individuals that decided to go into business in the year that was. And interestingly enough, such a huge number of 326 new companies registered every day, meaning there are many who decided to go the business way. And for the longest of time, we've always had tax reliefs when it goes to the age of a company and how much you accrue. Is this something that perhaps we need to go back to now that we are all trying to get on our feet?
Yes, thank you, Gladys. It's very encouraging to see Kenyans being very enterprising, registering companies, because I think the days are changing, just as Ezekiel is saying. We are not, it's not about go to school, get a job, but it's more of can you use your abilities, to earn a living. And companies are required to comply with the requirements of the tax laws. And we see there are a host of taxes, yes, and it depends with how much you are able to make. So that if you are a small-time entity, you might actually be falling under turnover tax, where you simply pay 1% and that is done. And of course, also if you're making less than 5 million and the services are not are subject to VAT, you might not also be liable to pay the value-added tax. So there are exemptions to a number of these taxes to ensure that our enterprising Kenyans are able to do business. But at the same time, we are also ensuring that there's a balance, that all of us contribute the taxes. And I wanted to connect this to the digital service tax, that it's a reality that almost all the sectors of the economy are gone digital. And a few years back, it would not have been possible to imagine that I will be reading my Nation newspaper through my phone. Because we started with the phone where you basically just received calls and texts and of course reply back to the same. So these taxes are there also to plow back that money by the government into the citizenry, and then the multiplier effect comes in. So it should be our duty as people who are opening new companies to learn about taxes that are applicable. And KRA has a robust way of training new taxpayers. Ideally, we have trainings every month for newly registered entities, because we have that information from the Register of Companies. So we invite them, they come in, we train them on their obligations, we train them on the exemptions to taxes that are applicable to them so that they take advantage of those exemptions. I know last year, a number of those exemptions were also done away with, simply because some of them, Kenyans were not taking advantage of those exemptions. And so it was basically like a dead horse. So people need to take advantage of them, Gladys.
All right. Thank you, Nixon. And we take a short break on Your World. When we come back, I am curious to know about this 9,649 companies that were established within a pandemic. What is it about them, and what is it that they discovered within the pandemic that made them think and believe they can flourish despite the circumstances, which I think refers to what Felix is saying. We need to think outside the box in as far as work and business is concerned. We'll be right back.
Premium candles. It is made of pure, fully refined paraffin wax. It doesn't have smoke. It has long burning hours. It is non-drip. It doesn't smell.
Always smile and work with Sumo Candle from Rock Industries Limited. For inquiries, visit our offices at Ndume Road off Lungalunga Road behind Carton Manufacturers near Sinai Stage. You can also talk to us through 0722 575 619.
As we
Next, on Daring Abroad, we take you to Dubai, the city of gold.
My name is Crispin Mangongo. In Dubai, I run a security company.
My name is George Ogango. I'm the CEO of First Global Events Company.
On Kenya to the World, why this Dreamliner has been repurposed into a cargo aircraft. This Saturday at 7:30 p.m. on NTV.
Trend at 10 p.m. New Year comes with New Year deals. Renew your corporate subscription and get a bonus. Subscribe to Nation e-paper for 3 months and get 1 week absolutely free. 6 months and get 2 weeks absolutely free. 1 year and get 3 weeks absolutely free. To sign up, visit epaper.nationmedia.com or email subscription@ke.nationmedia.com. Offer valid till 28th February 2021.
Try Panadol Advance for relief from headaches, body aches, and fever. With Panadol's Optizorb formula, the tablet gently breaks down in the stomach, quickly absorbs, and starts providing pain relief in 15 minutes. For fast and effective pain relief that you can trust, try Panadol Advance.
Thank you for staying with Your World. My name is Gladys Gachanja, and on this conversation of youth unemployment, I am joined by my colleague, that is Victor Kiprop, even as we interrogate the issues around this perennial issue in this country. And helping us along with this conversation is Felix Musau, who is the founder of Agen. We also are joined by Nixon Omondi, who is the team lead digital economy at KRA. And joining us on phone is Isaiah Wachichi, who is a Bungoma Youth ex-Kazi Mtaani rep. Now, I'll start off with Isaiah now that we finally have him on board. Isaiah, hii kazi ya Kazi Mtaani bado unaifanya ama?
Madam, bado naendelea na kazi. Kazi sichaacha kwa sababu unaona hiyo wakati ya corona nilikuwa nafunza pale shule ya academy pale Mtoto Academy mwalimu. Lakini kibahati mbaya shule ikafungwa. Rendi ilileta shida, sasa nikaendelea na Kazi Mtaani. Mimi naendelea. Hata leo natarajia kitu.
Ukiangalia sasa imekuwa miezi kadhaa hivi. Hizo hela zimekusaidiaje?
Hiyo pesa kibahati mzuri, acha niseme kibahati mzuri. Nilipata hiyo kazi na imeniwezesha. Mimi nafanya kama supervisor. Na napata shilingi 500 na shilingi 5 kwa siku. Hiyo pesa imenisaidia, nimeanza miradi. Nakumbuka hiyo wakati ilianza mwezi wa 7. Nikajaribu kununua mahindi, niko na magunia sahi 20 kwa nyumba. Alafu pia nimeingilia mambo ya biashara, nimetafuta pikipiki ya loan. Nimelipa 22,000 ambayo pia nimeanza nayo. Sasa naona njaa itaniumiza hii mwaka na niko na pikipiki na nipeleka kazi na nisaidia kufanya biashara, kusaidia maisha kidogo kidogo na pia naendelea mzuri nayo.
Okay, sasa umesema ulikuwa mwalimu alafu kazi ikapotea ukaingia katika kazi mtaani. Ni wengi ambao walikuwa katika the same circumstances na wewe?
Tuko wengi. Walimu wengi waliacha na wakaingia huku kwa sababu wengine kama mimi nilikuwa nimehitimu mwalimu wa chekechea. Lakini sikuwa na ile mahali ya kujikilia sana kwa sababu serikali hajaniandika mimi. Sasa nikaingilia hiyo kazi mtaani na bahati mzuri nikaongea na bwana chief kwa sababu nilikuwa kule NYS. Nikapewa hiyo nafasi ya supervisor. Sasa mimi naendelea na kazi.
Sasa karibu huu mradi uishe January, lakini government ikasema wata extend mpaka March.
Tarehe 4 mwezi wa 3.
Ukisikia that mradi huu unakuja kuisha, unafikiriaje kuhusu that kind of a decision?
Ni kitu nilikuwa nimezoea kufanya na ninapata mkate. Nikisikia inaenda kuisha, kidogo nasononeka kwa roho yangu kidogo. Kwa sababu ni kitu yenye imenisaidia na ilikuwa inanifanya na kuwa busy kidogo, napata mkate kila siku, sikosi kitu. Nikisikia inaenda kuisha, hali nasikia vibaya sana. Na natoa tu naomba serikali kupitia Rais Uhuru Kenyatta kwamba tusaidie. Kama ataongeza at least miezi 6 tena mbele, tuendeleze. Unajua tulikuwa tumeanza miradi mingi sana, sasa tunajipanga mambo ya shamba, kulipa school fees kidogo, niko na familia pia. Sasa akisema ati inaenda kuisha, nasikia mbaya kidogo. At least angetuongeza kama miezi nyingine 6. Ningefurahia sana, na niko naongea kwa niaba ya vijana 1273 ambao wako kwa hii mradi ya kazi mtaani. Kwa sababu ukipita kila mahali unauliza, kila mtu anakuuliza hii kazi itaendelea, kila mtu anauliza kazi itaendelea. Sasa kama kazi ingeendelea kidogo, hata kama miezi 6, tutashukuru sana na tutatembea na rais atusaidie, kwa sababu sasa tukiacha hakuna kazi nyingine tunaenda kufanya. Hapa tuko town, unajua watu wengi wamekaa town. Kama mimi penye niko sasa naishi town. Watu wengi walikuwa wanapata akipata anapeleka kwa rent chakula, kwa sababu hiyo wakati ya corona ilikuja kazi iliisha. Watu wamekaa tu kwa nyumba.
Okay, sasa Isaiah, wewe umesema ulikuwa mjanja. Kila wakati ukipata mapato unanunua mahindi, umenunua bodaboda. Kuna wengine pia wamekuwa wajanja kama wewe, ndio hata kama huu mradi utaisha angalau watakuwa na kitu wameshikilia.
Niko hii kazi imesaidia. Ukiangalia kuna vijana hapa wengi, ukiangalia hapa kuna wasichana hapa wakapo wengi wameanza vibanda, wanauza mboga, wanauza makaa. Kuna wengine wameanza mradi ya kuku. Lakini kuna wengine kulingana na maisha iko, unaona mtu akona watoto kama watoto 3 4 kwa nyumba na anaishi town, analipa rent, akipata hiyo pesa anakula, yote inaenda. Sasa inasumbua kidogo. Kidogo inakuwa na shida kidogo kwa sababu ya nature ya familia. Kuna familia kubwa na mapato ni kidogo. Naona hiyo pesa unapata kama 455 kama mtu wa mkono, sasa si supervisor. Mtu akipata hiyo pesa yezi muwezesha sana aweke kitu, akiweka anaweka kidogo na atakula kesho.
Okay, now definitely good perspective there from Isaiah in as far as the effects or the impact of Kazi Mtaani. Now, Felix, you said we need to think about how we can actually make this more sustainable. Kazi Mtaani is in all the 47 counties. What can the county governments do or put in place to harness what's already working for these youth? Because like Isaiah says, he's gotten a little, put a little on the side, and at least he has something that is giving him an income.
I mean, I think what he's done is brilliant. And being a supervisor, I'm sure he's been able to coach the younger ones around him. So think about, we're in 47 counties, we've been able to mobilize youth. How can we be able to take that energy and refocus it on an economic activity? So I would see this initiative as a way of raising capital for the youth, for them to be able to move to the next step. And with more training, and that's the other aspect of that the county can be able to engage in, train them in financial literacy, train them in savings, being able to move back to the circles that we grew up with, the merry-go-rounds, the table bankings, that they can now be able to bring those resources together to be able to not do just to be able to invest into something that can be able to generate revenue for all of them. So from where I sit is, financial literacy and being able to see how well that energy can be able to be directed, whether or not they're getting paid or not. But that mobilization and that discipline that has been built to wake up, go to work, and come back is something that should not be let to fizzle away.
Now, we had asked you on our question of the day today is if you have struggled finding a job in this season and what have you had to do to stay afloat. That hashtag is new normal, and also you can call us using the number on, or rather the numbers on your screen, and we have some of that feedback. Steve Wesh, who says not even able to reach $1 a day. Kenyans are struggling. We hear you, Steve. Felix Lichungu says, kungangana na hali yangu, kazi ni kwa wazee. Interesting perspective. Mwangi Kariuki says, nili support BBI waiting to become a member of parliament. Really, Mwangi? Luga Kalonik says, nilikuwa nasikia vijana wamesoma na hawana kazi. Sai mimi ndio huyo kijana. So umesoma na hauna kazi. And something that actually Felix touched on. Kaburu says, kukunywa kahabrugu na kibao ili nisahau job hunting. Well, that is not sustainable as it is. But hey, talk to us. What have you been doing to stay afloat? The various businesses you perhaps have tried out just to eke living, even as you try to find a way to stay afloat. And Felix, let me take you back to the fact that we said we are trying to harness our youth from zero to being bankable, having their own capital, having their own money so that they are able to stand on their own 2 feet. You are in agribusiness. How does it work in that space?
Okay. Agribusiness has been proven to have the greatest multiplier effect towards poverty eradication and alleviation in Africa. However, having been very fragmented, we've never been able to extract the total value or the total potential of agriculture. So what we were doing is we had, we put up an initiative called My 300. And My 300 was to help some youth we had worked with before, because we have 2 kinds of youth we work with. We have the rural youth who we have termed as producers, and we have the urban youth who we give charge of markets. Now, the rural youth do not own the factors of production. They don't own the land. They do not own the machinery on the land if it's there. So for them to attract any sort of funding to work in those farms becomes very difficult. So we have to help them de-risk primary production. And in terms of de-risking, one of the key risks in agriculture in production is markets. So we've been working also with urban youth and asking, can we be able to aggregate sufficient demand to transform both the urban youth and the rural youth? And that's what we call an inclusive economic model. So with the urban youth, we worked with youth and said, okay, what don't we have? We don't have, I mean, you'll hear the same things he's saying, capital, access to capital, and access to opportunities. If you have a business, and I would look at the kind of businesses that are being registered, and I'd assume 80 to 90% of those were by people who were employed, who got a shock that the job is no longer secure and decided, hey, this is a time to get back to, let me get a hustle. 90% I'd bet are people who were employed. I digress. So with the youth, what we did is we are a team of about 15 people who have come together. We have farmers who have come together. We have logisticians who have come together. We have quality assurance people who have come together. We have branding, we have marketing, who have come together to say, can we provide our expertise to this youth who has no ability to access capital and give him a ramp-up business, or what we call a zero capital business. And give him a model, modeled around micro-franchising, that he can be able to use what he has, which is technology, smartphones, most of them have smartphones, and social capital. So we'd have to also redefine what is capital. So we've had to rethink and redefine, is capital just money, or is it also your networks? So we've said, okay, let's aggregate your networks, or we will help you also aggregate networks that you can be able to service the farmer, with your networks. And so this has been a 4-year-old, started with some lady in Kenyatta universities who said, you know what, we don't want to be seen as mama mbogas, take this digital. So we did that. So we've been iterating to a point whereby now we are scaling and people are coming in, downloading the app. There's a process where even corporates are beginning to join in and say, give us a youth we can adopt, give us a youth we can divert our purchasing power over. So my responsibility and your responsibility, Gladys, is to be able to more or less water the seed that's in the youth by basically changing our purchase, even if it's 1,000 shillings of fruits and vegetables. When you spend that to a youth, I'll call Atieno, who's, let's say, in Kangemi, when you do that, what we're doing is, one, we're building her cash flow. We're building her cash flow, and as she builds cash flow, she's becoming bankable. And so we're moving her from a point whereby she wants to open a salon, for example. Now she has cash flow, she has coaching. We also have a coach who every week, every 2 weeks, we have online trainings, and he goes to train, providing this skill, most of them at no cost to the youth, so that we can be able to build business skills, confidence, the ability to market themselves in a way, and also financial, and giving them some financial lifeline that then they can be able to move to the next step.
All right, and clearly here, all stakeholders have to come on board to ensure that we not only empower the youth, but also give them this lifeline we are talking about. And speaking of which, the unemployment menace in this country is escalating, unfortunately, and with universities releasing thousands of graduates annually to an already bloated job market, the situation is not about to get better. Where did the rain start beating us? How do we help the situation? Brian Mushiri caught up with nominated MP Gideon Keter, who represents the youth in Parliament, just to understand what the government is doing or not doing to sort the youth unemployment situation in the country.
Time and time again, the government of the day has used the youth unemployment agenda to get themselves into Parliament. They will come in and say, if you employ me and put me into that august house, I will make sure the young have jobs. This morning on Your Voice, I speak to nominated Member of Parliament, Gideon Keter, who is in that Parliament to represent youth affairs. Good morning, sir. How are you? How are you doing?
Good morning, Brian.
Quick question. You come in at a time when many say we don't need such people like you. I mean, nominated members of parliament, nominated senators, we don't need people like you. What do you take of this? I mean, the wage bill is above the roof. Do we need you guys?
First of all, I'm here as a member of parliament because it is a wish of the many people. That is why in the constitution, or in our constitution, it is a requirement that in every setup, a young person should be there, or the women should be there as affirmative action, majorly to focus on policy, formulations, budget allocations, and to oversight what the executive is doing or the government is doing, especially to the youth.
The conversation this morning, just to cut you short right there, is on unemployment. Kenya's rate of unemployment in the region is extremely high. In your view, what is the cause of this?
Number one cause is red tape around legislations. Number two is the economy. When the economy is doing bad, it is also affecting the rate or the budget, either in the private sector or in government. For example, in government, in the year 2018-2019, we were only able to employ 1,800. If you compare the 1,800 to over 500 students we channel out of our campuses every year, it doesn't add up. Other interventions that we have tried to put in place is affirmative fund. That is the youth fund. So that the young citizens can also look for ventures in self-employment. To start your own small business, you can access small capital, and you can begin from there. That is more of entrepreneurship.
You had a conversation with young SME owners in Westlands, and you spoke to them about the need to improve on your talent and turn your talent into your paycheck to start a business. Question is, I'm just 20 years old, I'm 21 years old. There's no chance absolutely of me getting any funds from government because that's what we've gotten. How will I get these funds to be able to start to kick off my business?
First of all, if you look at our traditions, or the current tradition is glorifying only people who get A's. Now all of us now are educated, we are here and we have degrees and there is no job. And I always tell the young people, do not overlook the importance of doing business because not all of us can get A's. At the same time, do not overlook the importance of education because not all of us can do business. So we need people to channel their energies based on their capabilities and abilities. And 2020 was a year everyone was flying for safety, flight to safety. And it exposed many of the young generation to different and dangerous environments. For example, if you are earning a salary, you could find yourself no salary and you have no option. So that the big economic reset affected many young generation who are the backbone of our economy, and that even affected the human capital in the startup industry. I'm going to push KRA to provide a PIN with no tax obligation. My young generation don't like to do assignments. So all the time telling me to file my returns every month and I have nothing to file is also a hindrance or also affecting the development of small businesses and affecting individuals. Because once in a while you'll be caught up in a mess whereby you have tax penalties. And tax penalties is simply because you did not file. So that is one. I also encourage young people to build on their talents. Building on a talent is very useful, especially when such a disaster shows up. Because people pay you for a service, a skill. We don't want to be a sleeping country. Many young people right now are sleeping in their beds. They wake up at 9, at 8, and 10. It's not their problem. It's not because they are lazy. It's because there is nothing they can do.
This level of unemployment, you are in that position to assist that kind of a position. Again, they say that unemployment in this country is a hoax. If you do not know anyone, then you are not in any position to be put in a position to have a job or to get employed. What do you take of this? And then as we do our final take on this conversation.
How things work in Kenya, you can say I need to have network. I need to have papers. I need to volunteer. I need to do one or two things. If you interview, in fact, I can give you an assignment. Ask anyone, how did you get there? And I'll tell you a different story, and I'll be able to prove you wrong that for me to get to where I am, I didn't know anyone. But it was only my hard work, it was only my network and my net worth for me to get where I am. Concentration and a focus is all we need. But knowing someone and knowing somewhere, that story is there, but I don't think it plays the major results in the employment sector. It doesn't.
This morning, your voice has brought me to KICC to speak again to nominated Member of Parliament Gideon Keter, who represents youth affairs in the National Assembly. My name is Brian Mushiri. Good morning.
Nominated MP Gideon Keter giving his perspective, of course, on the issue of discussion today. And Nixon, I'm going to come back to you on one of the things that the nominated Member of Parliament mentioned, which he spoke about giving out PINs with no tax obligations, which is something I've also seen in the startup bill by Honorable Sakaja, which proposed some sort of a tax relief for this startups. Are some of these proposals feasible from the taxman's point of view, Nixon?
it will be implemented so that our youths and those who are still in school, because they are required to have a PIN, can have a PIN without obligation. But that said, we currently have a framework which is available to every citizen who had any tax to pay since 2015 to 2020 to apply for a voluntary tax disclosure and to get relief within 2021, 100% on penalties and interest. So this goes out to the youth who might have obtained PINs and they didn't declare any income or otherwise, and they will wish that their ledger be cleaned. Of course, they have to apply through the iTax system, and then they'll get to obtain a waiver of all the penalties and interests. But again, in addition to that, any youth who applied for a PIN, they don't have any gainful employment or source of income, they are also allowed to put up a case with the commissioner requesting for waiver of whatever penalties or interest that have accrued on their PIN profile because of either not filing a return or any other non-compliance issues. But of course, the reason must be one that the commissioner can rely on in order to grant you the waiver request. Yes, Kiprop.
Good. That's a very wide and comprehensive explanation, Nixon, to this. But again, we still have the question about this creative economy, which, as I mentioned earlier, we're still trying to kind of encourage at the same time without discouraging using these taxes. From your perspective and from where you sit and the description by the nominated MP, is this a sector that you think could, in the coming, of course, years, be significant in pushing up the taxman's revenues?
Very true, and you've rightly put it, that the future is actually digital. And I'm sure, Kiprop, even within the Nation Media Group, you've seen revenues in the traditional, brick and mortar business go down. So the future is to go digital. And as well, we also expect to collect taxes from the digital economy in future. Of course, as I already alluded to, for the budding businesses, they are cushioned from additional DST because they'll be able to claim it in their return. And for those who are just starting their businesses, they will also be accorded to be within the turnover tax, a very favorable tax rate, 1%, and also simplified in terms of the technicalities in calculating, in filing, and of course registering for the same tax. But yes, you've said the future is digital. So we expect to collect more in future as more people get online. And of course, this discussion is not just DST alone. There's a wider discussion with what we call the inclusive framework. Countries that have signed to that inclusive framework with the OECD are also in discussion on how to tax the digital economy without having issues around double taxation. Thank you.
Good. Let me go back to Isaiah on this a bit. Isaiah, kama unanisikia, kuna lile ambalo mbunge amezungumzia kuhusu vile ambavyo nyinyi kama vijana mnaweza mkajitafutia zile kama capital kutokana na mbinu zile zimekuwa provided na serikali. Na kwa mfano tuko na kama youth fund, tuko na women enterprise fund ambazo vijana wanaweza wakaenda pale wakajipatia mkopo na kuweza kuanzisha biashara zao bila kungoja serikali iwasaidie. Lakini kuna lile tatizo ambalo wengi wanasema hata hakuna awareness ambayo imefanywa na serikali. Je, wewe unafahamu kwamba kuna opportunities kama hizi?
Kipro. Hello.
Umenisikia?
Nakusikia sana.
Nilikuwa nauliza kama nyinyi kama vijana mnafahamu kwamba kuna opportunities ambazo mnaweza kupata mikopo kutoka kwa serikali kupitia initiatives kama vile Uwezo Fund na Youth Enterprise Fund.
Okay. Kwa kweli venye tumekuja tukapatana hapa kazi mtaani, vijana wengi tumekuwa na yale mawazo. Nakumbuka hiyo wakati ilikuwa ya hata huduma center Bungoma alikuja hapa akatueleza jinsi tunaweza jiunga kwa vikundi mbalimbali na tukafungua account tuanze kufanya savings ndio tupate pesa. Kuna wenye wamejaribu na mimi ni mmoja wao, lakini bado hajapata pesa kwa sababu ile procedure ya kufuata ndio upate hiyo pesa pia ni mrefu kidogo. Najua ni vile tulikuwa tunasikia tu kwamba ati pesa iko ya vijana uwezo fund nini, lakini kwenda kufikia hiyo pesa the process peke yake inaweza fanya mtu give up. Lakini bado hatujapata, lakini tumejiunga kwa vikundi mbalimbali na tunataka pia tuombe wale wahisani ambao wanaweza tusaidia, kwa sababu hiyo kikundi yetu yenye tumeanza tunataka tuchukue hiyo pesa tuanze miradi ya kuku, na kuna wengine wako pale wanataka kwanza hii mambo ya kuuza cereals. Sasa kama tunaweza pata hiyo pesa in time tuianze, najua itatusaidia. Najua kwa sababu kazi mtaani maybe wakisema haitaendelea na hiyo pesa pia tuikose, unajua maisha itakuwa ngumu sana. Tulikuwa tumeweza kushika pesa kidogo.
Felix ameweza kuzungumza kuhusu mambo ya agribusiness, na kama unavyofahamu sekta ya ukulima ni mojawapo ya sekta muhimu zaidi katika uchumi wa Kenya. Bado inatoa kazi kwa watu wengi sana humu nchini, lakini kati ya vijana kuna wale ambao wanaona kwamba mambo ya ukulima mimi siwezi kufanya, mimi nataka kazi ya ofisi,
kazi yenye iko na kazi inaendelea. Unajua hiyo wakati tulikuwa tunaanza tulikuwa na ile narrative kwamba kazi kwa vijana, pesa kwa wazee, na vijana wengi hata walikataa kuingilia hii mradi. Hello.
Endelea Isaya, endelea.
Sasa wakasema hii pesa sasa ni kama ni kazi kwa vijana, lakini pesa itaenda kwa wazee. Unakumbuka hapo nyuma mradi kama hii ilikuwa imeanza, lakini haikuenda mbali. Lakini kwa wale wenye hawakubahatika, ni ukweli hii kazi iko na tunapata ile pesa yenye walisema, hakuna mtu anakosa pesa, lakini sasa ndio wengine walikuwa wamefungiwa nje. Najua kama hii kazi itaendelea, ni kuomba tu serikali kama itaendelea pia waangalie wale vijana walikuwa wameachwa nje, pia wakuje wasikie utamu na uzuri wa hii pesa, kwa sababu ni vijana wengi wako huko nje wamekaa tu hawana kazi. Unaona vijana hata saa nyingine saa hii hapa wanaamka kwa nyumba saa 2, saa 3, saa 4. Si ati ni kupenda kwao, kwa sababu hawana kazi ya kufanya, lakini kazi kama hii kama itakuwa vijana watafanya na itatusaidia na itaimarisha maisha yao. Na mimi nimeona ikiimarisha, na hii kazi ni mzuri sana, imesaidia. Hata kama watu wanasema tumegraduate lakini hakuna kazi, wacha tuanze na ile kidogo, najua kuanzia hapa ndio tutasonga.
Isaiah. Of course, what an insightful discussion we are having, of course, on this topic of youth and unemployment, and ways, of course, in which the youth can take charge and sort of provide solutions for themselves in this crisis. We go for a break, and at the other end of this break, we have feedback that you've been sending us, and we continue the discussion on what else the youth can do for themselves instead of waiting for the government.
Rock Industries Limited wanakuletea bidhaa za plastiki zinazotumika kila siku maishani, kuanzia matumizi ya jikoni, usafi na shuleni, miongoni mwa matumizi mengine. Chakula kitamu sio upishi tu, kikiwa kitamu kisha kipakuliwe katika vyombo maridadi kinakuwa kitamu zaidi. Ndio maana Rock Industries Limited wanahakikisha mezani na jikoni kunapendeza kwa kukuletea vyombo maridadi vya plastiki. Vyombo hivi ni vya viwango vya juu, vyenye rangi nzuri ya kupendeza, umbo wa kuvutia na vinadumu. Baadhi ya bidhaa za plastiki kutoka Rock Industries Limited ni vikombe, glasi, sahani, jagi, begi, bakuli, vijiko, vichana na kadhalika, na bidhaa hizi muhimu zinapatikana katika duka lililo karibu nawe pamoja na maduka ya jumla kwa bei nafuu. Kwa maelezo zaidi wasiliana na Rock Industries Limited kupitia nambari 0722575619 au 0736028181.
Maji mdosi wangu ametupa simu yangu ndani ya maji.
Mdosi wako kwa sawa? Venye Nkirota ameniambia ajui na akimpigia simu ashiki. Hi! Guy! What the?
For the women who deserve more, Moped is now in Kenya and more than 40 countries. With its nylon-free surface, new Moped has unique softness and up to 100% protection. Your skin will love it.
Breaking news from Molfix. Let's see what they're developing right now.
Pants is just for me. It really feels very comfy.
Molfix pants with anatomic fit technology. New Molfix pants, an invention from babies for babies.
You should also try Molfix.
New year comes with new year deals. Renew your corporate subscription and get a bonus. Subscribe to Nation e-paper for 3 months and get 1 week absolutely free. 6 months and get 2 weeks absolutely free. 1 year and get 3 weeks absolutely free. To sign up, visit epaper.nationmedia.com or email subscription@ke.nationmedia.com. Offer valid till 28th February 2021.
If you had a fight with Miguel, it's your problem, okay? I have nothing to do with it. Okay, Miguel, the only thing I want is to help you, but you keep insisting on involving Luciana in everything.
Erica, I don't know why you're reacting this way. Why are you so angry?
I told you! If you said something, your friend and Juan would be in trouble. And you didn't listen to me! Along came
Heaviness and a burning inside, it could be heartburn.
Indigestion and heartburn? Eno gets to work in 6 seconds and works on the 6 symptoms of heartburn so you can keep living life non-stop. Eno, fight heartburn and indigestion fast.
Try Panadol Advance for relief from headaches, body aches, and fever. With Panadol's Optizorb formula, the tablet gently breaks down in the stomach, quickly absorbs, and starts providing pain relief in 15 minutes. For fast and effective pain relief that you can trust, try Panadol Advance.
It is your world. My name is Gladys Gachanja, and today I'm joined by Victor Kiprop. Even as we interrogate this perennial issue, we're talking about youth and employment, and we've talked about various issues that are fed into the same crisis, but also we are harnessing and looking into the solutions that are there and how this needs a multi-stakeholders point of view to actually change around the fortunes of the youth. And speaking of which, we have asked you on the question of the day, have you struggled finding a job? What have you had to do to stay afloat? That hustle, that side business, what is this that you've gotten into? HR Julia says, I discovered that looking for a job is another job, so I decided to look for internet working skills. Good move, Julius. Blackstar says, I'm actually still struggling. We hear you, Blackstar, and you speak on behalf of very many youth. Lamek says, camera works and editing. Interesting. Tell us where you came from before this. Nafula says finding a job is more of connections nowadays. Na wale hatuna connections tulianzisha tu biashara ndogo ndogo tu. The fact that you took a step is a good place to be, and it's in the right direction. Economist Thomas, I think, overtaxation by governments only serve to generate good revenue for a short time before the businesses fail and there's nowhere to collect taxes. It's not a good idea to subject Kenyans into heavy taxes. David Indak says, okay, that other hatuna kazi yet MCAs are being rewarded with 5 million grants while no one thinks about the youth who lost their jobs. Kenya is literally screwed up na kibao ili nisahau job hunting. David, I hear you, and as we said, a lot of the youth have really gotten into depression and substance abuse to just deal with the stress that comes with not being able to eke a living. Now, the United Nations has declared 2021 the International Year of Creative Economy for Sustainable Development. This has attracted a section of the youth in Mombasa who are tapping the potential presented by the creative industry to beautify the island city through art. This is expected to become a game changer, as it will also support the tourism sector, which is struggling after the ravages of the pandemic. And TV's Kevin Mutai reports from Mombasa.
These designs painted on the walls of the Makinon Market in Mombasa, famously known as Marikiti, reflects a true definition of how creative art can be used as an attraction. Every fresh produce here has been mirrored on these walls.
Everyone is happy with the outcome. They love it. It brings beauty to the market. It brings customers, you know. So they're proud of what's happening right now, and the fact that it's a lady doing this, the more the better.
The use of art and craft is also changing the general outlook of the port city as a tourist destination. Different designs of crochet are glowing at the railway's recreational facility, which is yet to be open to the public. The industry is now expected to thrive at a time the United Nations has declared 2021 as the International Year of Creative Economy for Sustainable Development. The sector is poised to generate employment for the youth and women, which will pave way for a more diverse business environment.
Creative economy to me means that bringing artists through life, facilitating what they are doing, and most of all, marketing the work that they do.
The murals and graffiti at Kingeleni along the Mombasa-Malindi Highway displays a preservation of the coastal cultural heritage.
If you go again to Old Town, there are certain elements that you will be able to observe there that tell, what happened in those sites. And so Kingeleni's artwork that you've been able to observe there is actually going to be not only engaging, it's also going to be educational, and of course it's going to be aesthetically entertaining.
They are actually uniquely branding Mombasa as a destination of choice. They are marketing Mombasa as one of the cities that has a unique, culture, a unique history that hasn't been told. And they're doing this, and they're telling our stories in a very powerful way using art.
This elevates the creative economy as an important tool for building a sustainable and inclusive future. Kevin Mutai, NTV in Mombasa.
Well, the creative economy is huge in this country, and it's one of those that is fed out of the talents of very many youth. And Nixon, as we all know, businesses normally have a lifeline of 5 years. Most of them die at 5, but if you go beyond that threshold, then you can survive. Now, we saw with the pandemic having hit the creative economy, and they're the same ones who are now the recipients of this digital economy. Is the taxman thinking about, thinking beyond the money and looking at how you can empower them with skills, with information as to how to keep the businesses afloat?
Gladys, the taxman is always thinking of balancing between collection and also the growth in the economy, because we need to collect taxes and leave enough for our citizenry to save and also to consume, because that is how an economy is actually, grown. Though the taxman is part of the policy-making organ of the government, I know the government has, you know, a robust mechanism in order to ensure that Kenyans, especially the youth, are protected and their skills enhanced, because that is how we develop our country. And I'm happy with what happens with the Kazi Mtaani and the Uwezo and the youth funds. And all these are only achievable when the government is able to collect enough. You remember I talked about the multiplier effect. So we need to collect, then plow it back into the economy so that we enhance that growth. Yes, Gladys, the government is thinking about the youth. KRA is also thinking about the youth. KRA has a number of activities, both CSR and also educational activities for our youth and for our citizens, so that they not just become aware of the taxation regime, their rights and obligations, but also to sharpen the skills of our youth and also those who are in the creative industry.
Okay, and we've talked about a lot of, you know, government, IDA, and all those other things and stakeholders who need to stand in the gap for the sake of the youth. Let's shift focus a little bit, even as we bring this conversation to a close, and think outside the box in as far as entrepreneurs, the youth, and how they view work and business is concerned. 2020 will go in record as having literally challenged the dynamics of doing work and business. So, from that perspective, Felix, what is it that the youth need to change around to be able to make the best out of a situation?
We have two aspects. I'll think about it as hardware and software. So when you get the tweets that are coming out and the conversations that you have, there's a lot of hopelessness. But let's give the government credit due. We have all those institutions, we have KRA having initiatives, we have private institutions trying to do something. But at the end of it all, you can only help someone who wants to be helped. So we can easily slip into what we call it, serikali nisaidia mentality, whereby you expect the government to do everything for you. But that's not possible anywhere in the world. It hasn't been done anywhere in the world. What the pandemic did, just not in Kenya, but also in the US and other developed countries, you'll find there's a term called UBI, Universal Basic Income, that's beginning to come out in the developed countries, because they realized that we need to give a cushion to our workers. So there are a lot of proponents of that particular system, so that the government can now offer a basic income. But here we are, whereby we don't have that balance sheet as a country to be able to do that. And what we can do is build models like what the Mombasa guys are doing. They're using their gift. They may not be paid, but they're volunteering and they're getting recognition. And somewhere, someone will pay for that gift. Sooner or later, they'll start earning. If you're still in bed at this particular time, you cannot blame the government for that. So we need to start working and coaching on the soft skills, the skills that, you have to first take responsibility for your life. No one is going to take responsibility for you. And from there on, people will now come in to help you as you try and do something, as we try to build business models. I'll give you an example that happened last week. Last week we had what we are calling a hangout. So because of some challenge, we had bundles. So we were giving the youth bundles. You register, we'll give you bundles so that you can attend the event. Many guys came. Bundles were sent, but only 50% turned up. So how do you say that? We had an opportunity for you, but you were so short-sighted. You took the bundles. You did not come for the event. And that goes towards an attitude and a mind shift change that's urgently needed. So we also need to take part of the budget. We need to take part of our own responsibility to say, listen, can we start coaching on this mind shift? Because there's no generation that has had it easy. Every generation had its challenges. We had our own challenges. They may not be the same, but we faced our own challenges. Building businesses, you face your own challenges. So challenges are part of life, but it's within the challenge that opportunities come out. For Africa, what we were called a dark continent, actually, it was where the land of opportunity is. So it's all a matter of, can we change our perspective? What's a problem? What's a challenge? Could that be an opportunity wrapped up as a challenge? And can we build the fortitude and the patience and the work ethic to be able to fully consume that opportunity, to be able to develop it, to nurture it to a point whereby it works for you? So I believe we need to work on the soft skills, which are more critical than anything else. You can get $1 million shillings today, but if your software is wrong, a month later, you'll be broke.
Okay, do we still have Isaiah on the line? Okay, Isaiah, kazi mtaani imekuja imekupatia mapato kidogo, angalau uko na kabiashara on the side. Umesema wengine pia wamekuwa wajanja, lakini vile tunasema sasa ni eti hatuwezi keti tu kungojea serikali isaidie. Kama vijana, ni nini hii ambaye sasa mnashikilia ndio mjiendeleze kama vijana?
Ati nini madam? Kidogo rudia kidogo. Ati kama vijana?
Nauliza ni nini kama nyinyi vijana mnafanya ndio mjiendeleze kama vijana bila kungojea county government ama national government ikuja wasaidie?
Okay, sasa sisi kama vijana kwa sasa hii tumejipanga na tumeanzisha Neriko SACCOS na tuko na miradi mbalimbali pia ambayo tunataka tujitegemee. Hata kama kazi mtaani itaisha, tuone pia tumefika mahali fulani. Ya kwanza zenye nilikuwa nimesema hapa awali, mambo na miradi ya kuku tumeianza, lakini tuko na shortage ya kuhifadhi kidogo, lakini tunang'ang'ana nayo. Ya pili, nataka kuambia vijana wenzangu, at least tuende kwa hii tusome hii kazi ya kujiajiri, tusiende kwa hiyo white collar jobs sana. Tuende tusome vitu kama masonry, plumbing, kwa sababu kazi ya ujenzi inaendelea, mambo ya stima, na tujitegemee sisi wenyewe. Naona sasa kama hiyo wakati ya corona, kama hii kazi ingekuwa watu wengine wana hiyo skills, ingekuwa ngumu sana. Mimi bado naambia vijana, hata tukikuwa nao hapa tukiwa kazi, tuna encourage, tunaingia kwa ma groups, at least tupate hiyo pesa, tuendelee kusimamia sisi wenyewe kwa wenyewe, na tusaidiane sisi wenyewe kwa wenyewe, badala ya tuseme wanasiasa fulani akuja atusaidie, maybe tukimbie tuende tupe pesa turushe mawe ndio tupate pesa. Sasa hiyo hatutaki. Sasa tuko kwa hiyo mambo ya kujipanga sisi wenyewe vijana, tujisaidie sisi wenyewe kwa wenyewe na tuendeleze maisha yetu, kwa sababu bila wanasiasa ama kama kuna wanasiasa lazima maisha iendelee.
Ukweli. Now Isaiah, kabla tukuambie kwa heri, ungetaka kuambia vijana vipi ambao wanachagua kazi sababu wanasema hii ni chafu, sitaki, nataka hii sio ngumu sana, sio, ungetaka kuambiaje?
Madam, kazi ni kazi na wasijague kazi, kwa sababu kama ungekuwa wanasema kama mimi hapa awali nilikuwa nasema mimi nataka tu nikuwe mwalimu na nikae shule, sitafanya vitu vingine, na kumbe mambo ya Mungu ni mengi. Lakini nataka niambie vijana tusichague kazi, tupate pesa, tufanye tujiajiri sisi wenyewe na tujiendeleze, na tuache mambo ya kutegemea wazazi, tutegemee wanasiasa nini, na tuendelee na maisha kama kawaida. Tukifanya namna hiyo, maisha itakuwa rahisi na tutaendelea sawa.
Sana Isaiah.
Jambo la mwisho nataka kuambia serikali nikisema kwa heri, tafadhali watu waangalie, hiki anaenda kuisha ndio, lakini kama watasema kuongeze kidogo, hata kama ni mwezi 2, mwezi 3, tutashukuru na tutasema ni asante. Naongea kwa niaba ya vijana 1273 Kenya mzima ambao wanafanya hii kazi mtaani.
Asante sana Isaiah, na pia kujiunga nasi asubuhi hii. Now over to Victor with his closing remarks and questions to our panelists.
Gladys, certainly there can never be enough time to discuss this, and of course this discussion has to continue offline on social media, the handles that we provided. Before his closing comments, I wanted to ask Nixon, KRA indicated that they were targeting I think 5 billion shillings in collections from the digital services tax between January and June this year. Is that, does it think that target is achievable? And number two, how do you think this could help the government close perhaps the budget deficits that we've seen in the past?
Yes, Kiprop, even as we come to a close, we target that amount and we know we'll achieve it. The amount will assist the government to plug the budgetary, deficit. and of course go into activities such as kazi mtaani and the like, because the taxes have already kicked in. We expect DST to be collected, or the taxpayers who are within the realm of DST to pay by 20th of this month. Yes, Kiprop, again, the taxes can only grow, and we believe that the 5 billion might be just a lower figure. And once Kenyans are educated and they are aware of these taxes, as well as the non-residents whom we believe are always very compliant, then we'll achieve the target.
All right, thank you very much, Nixon. And as we close, we still have a huge target with regards to what we can be able to connect in totality in terms of total revenue for this financial year. Once again, with all the effects that we've had with the pandemic, I know revenues came up in December, but do you think this target is still within reach?
It's still within reach. And I'm happy to inform our citizens that for the month of December and January, KRA actually met its revenue target and surpassed it. So I think the performance can only go higher. So we believe with the goodwill of Kenyans, and I know Kenyans are people who might not want to be followed around. I know they will do their civic duties, comply and pay the taxes, and then we'll achieve the target. And if KRA achieves the target, then the government also achieves the target of providing the much needed goods and services.
Thank you. I guess, as I said earlier, there can never be enough time to discuss this. Don't you think so, Gladys?
Yes, definitely. And we'll keep creating forums where we can delve deeper as to how we can make the best out of the situation. Again, it is not the end of the road, as the various speakers have spoken about. There is sufficient information out there, sufficient infrastructure that the youth need to take advantage of and actually stand on their own 2 feet. But all the stakeholders need to come together to ensure that they give this lifeline to the youth as they need. Well, we say thank you to all our panelists. Definitely in studio we had Felix, who is the founder of AGAN. He's Felix Musau, founder of AGAN, and Nixon, who is with the KRA, and Isaiah Ochichi, who spoke very well on behalf of the youth, and many who are part of the Kazi Mtaani initiative and gave us a perspective of what they are dealing with on a daily. Now, tomorrow is the 11th of February, and we shall be focusing on the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. Yes, there is such a day, and science and gender equality are both vital for the achievement of the internationally agreed development goals, including the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. So what does this all entail, and how can we empower women and girls to enter into this space? We'll talk more about that tomorrow. See you then.
Presenting the new Harpic Bathroom Cleaner. Compared to ordinary detergents, its thick formulation gives you superior cleaning and kills 99.9% of germs and viruses all around the bathroom. Blue
for the toilet
and red
for the bathroom.
Trust Dettol to clean, protect, and keep you refreshed every day. I still can't believe how quickly you've grown. Dettol, tested effective against COVID-19.
From far with you. I even gifted you a magnificent house. Rosa, it's the thought that counts. Please help me.
When it comes to fever, you need to be both. Panadol Baby